Mosse, as you mentioned earlier, we'll be doing a live show when it comes to the State of the Union as a reaction to the roster for the Gold Cup, and you can tune in on Thursday for that. But, Mosse, do you participate in the old AI machine out there at all?
Not really. I'm not the most tech-savvy person, but I know it's taking over the world.
All the kids are doing it now. And, so we thought, hey, let's see what AI has to think of the Gold Cup roster. And so producer Sean, he's got the fingers and the technical ability to do this. He plugged it into whatever that machine is over there. And this is what AI spit out in terms of a 26-man roster. And we'll see if we agree or disagree. All right, over there on the goalkeepers, AI says Matt Turner, Zach Steffen, and Patrick Schulte. I don't think that a lot of people are going to disagree with AI when it comes to that. I'm certainly not, and I do think that is probably going to be what happens. Other options, Matt Freese, Diego Kochen, these types of players. But, the goalkeeping position, while up in the air, these are some of the usual suspects. Any problems there, Mosse?
No issues at all. Score one for technology, I think.
There we go.
Is spot on.
Exactly. They will replace us all. The robots will. All right, defenders. Let's go with 9 defenders. Serginho Dest, who we talked about earlier in the show. Joe Scally, Chris Richards, who we also talked about earlier in the show. Cameron Carter-Vickers, Miles Robinson, Anthony Robinson, Jedi, DeJuan Jones, Austin Trusty, and Tim Ream. Now, I think you can argue that this is a fine collection and a logical collection, which is what I'm assuming AI comes to, is logic. But there are certainly others out there. Your John Tolkien's, your Chris Walker Zimmerman's, Fosse's, George Campbell's, Shaq Moore, Ledesma, Max Arfston, who's been involved before. And even a lot of people are talking about Alex Freeman from Orlando down there on the right-hand side. Now, I do think that AI got it right, and I do think that Pochettino will bring Serginho Dest back in. And I think we need to bring Serginho Dest back in now that he is fit and playing to see what he is relative to the national team. But are you good with this group of players here?
My only question would be that backup left back spot. AI went with DeJuan Jones, which could be the case, but I could see a few others as well. I think that's wide open.
Yeah, and he's I don't think he started this weekend for, what does he play? San Jose. So, yeah, exactly. But yeah, there are some other options out there and some other MLS options. It's a good time to remind people that Mauricio Pochettino has been very public about the fact that he doesn't care where you are playing. And if there ever was a time to kind of experiment, maybe the last time to experiment, especially given the recent failures, I think it's this summer with the Gold Cup and the reality that some of these players are not going to be involved because of Club World Cup when it comes to Weston McKennie and Gio Reyna, allegedly. But we'll see. All right, Mosse, shall we go to the midfield?
Let's do it.
Okay, AI says Tyler Adams, Johnny Cardoso, Yunus Musa, Luca De La Torre, Aiden Morris, Malik Tillman, who we talked about earlier, Gianluca Busio, and Diego Luna, who has had his glow up right now. I'm not sure that AI, while it's logical, I'm not sure that Yunus Musa is there, but he could be. Other options include Tanner Tessman, obviously Sebastian Berhalter. By the way, if you didn't listen to our interview last week with Sebastian Berhalter, really, really interesting stuff from him. And speaking about a guy who is having a moment, it is Sebastian Berhalter, Jack McGlynn, and Brian Gutierrez, who are playing very, very well right now. I do think that someone like Sebastian Berhalter is going to creep in there, and I want him kind of to creep in there. Mosse?
I would swap in Berhalter and Tessman in place of Busio and De La Torre.
Of Busio and De La Torre. Yeah, I don't think that Busio is going to get called in. Tanner Tessman's had an opportunity. Okay, not great. And I think we've kind of seen what he is. And again, I do think that this is the time for some experimentation, I guess is not the right word, but for some new blood and the last chance again for some new blood. All right, should we go to the forwards?
Let's do it.
Forwards, Christian Pulisic, Brendan Aronson. I know he's listed as a midfielder on the 90-man roster that has been submitted, but let's just put him out there on the as a forward here. Alejandro Zendejas, Folarin Balogun, and Josh Sargent, Haji Wright. Now, that's what AI thinks. Other options, obviously, Brian White from up there in Vancouver, Patrick Ajiman from Charlotte, who has had a really good, at least, first camp, Brandon Vasquez, who brings something different, and even Damian Downs there. I do think that Brian White, because he's scoring goals, is going to get called in. So AI, I think, is wrong there from a forward perspective. I think Brian White is and should get called in.
I'm on record as saying, from a roster composition standpoint, I don't like taking 3 center forwards, especially when you have Haji Wright as one of your wingers, who's kind of a hybrid who could slide over and play as a center forward if needed. So I would prefer if it's only 2. AI went with Balogun and Sargent. So if you're putting either White or Ajiman in there, I think it has to be in the place of one of those 2, which is interesting. We know Sargent, terrific at club level with Norwich, hasn't translated with the national team. Balogun, by the way, was out a long time with an injury, and then Monaco brought him back in slowly. So he's only played about 150 minutes of soccer in the last 6 months or so. So I think Pochettino will still take him, but it's at least a question mark.
Yeah, that's a hard one because you don't want – it's not that you're giving up on him, but if he isn't 100% and others are, yeah. I still go back to Brian White. I want to see what he looks like.
Would you take Brian White above either Sargent or Balogun?
Well, why can't I take him above Zendejas?
I mean, if you want to have 3 center forwards,
yeah,
I'm going to have
3. I'm a 3 center forward guy. That's how I roll. All right. Again, the schedule: friendlies against Turkey on the 7th of June, friendlies against Switzerland on the 10th of June, and then the group stage starts for the Gold Cup. Trinidad and Tobago on the 15th of June, Saudi Arabia, who is a guest in the Gold Cup, on the 19th of June, and then final group stage game against Haiti on the 22nd of June. All absolutely winnable and should be won from regardless of who Pochettino brings in.
And the 60-player preliminary roster dropped today. I did think it was notable, no Gio Reyna. Both you and I thought because he's so on the outs at Dortmund, there was a chance he would play in the Gold Cup. I'm not sure if this seals it 100%. Is there still some negotiation there? Can you tweak the list?
I mean, but you as the federation, you would have lobbed a call in and said, hey, we're not going to...
You figure if there was even a possibility he'd be on this list. So
if there is not that type of communication, then that is bad. But I can't fathom that. Well, it's the federation. You never know. But I can't fathom that that's the situation. So it would not surprise me if, because of this, Gio Reyna is on the roster for Dortmund for Club World Cup, and I guess is in the storefront window again, or he just sits his ass on the bench for, or continues to sit his ass on the bench for Dortmund in the Club World Cup.
It's also interesting to me that we've gone from 23 to 26 player squads these major tournaments without much fanfare. The same thing happened with 3 versus 5 subs. These were changes made during COVID and also because the Qatar World Cup was in the winter, and now they've just stuck, and that's what it's going to be moving forward.
Yeah, but they're not bad. As a matter of fact, you can argue that they were good changes, that they happened because of COVID, fine. But I think everybody recognizes and says, hey, we probably should have done this beforehand, but we can use it as an excuse that's COVID, but we're not going back because it's good things. I argue that as much as it is kind of a staple of soccer, the fact that you can't use everybody on your team is still kind of strange to me and irritates me a little bit when it comes to soccer.
One final note, Canadians also very excited about the Gold Cup. Did you see Director Gabe today sporting a Canada hat?
Mocking. It was a mocking.
No, that was to taunt you. We know Canada beat the U.S. in hockey recently, also in soccer in the Nations League Final Four. No Alphonso Davies at the Gold Cup this summer. Nevertheless, Gabe fired up.
I mean, this is the premier regional tournament when it comes to the United States and Canada. So you can, hang your hat on that hockey display, or on the, leagues. What was the other one? Nations League and stuff like that. That's all fine and well, but this is for reals. All right, this is for real. This summer when it comes to the Gold Cup, and then obviously next summer. And Canada didn't even get out of their group in the last World Cup, right?
Correct.
But congratulations going back to the World Cup to Canada and again.
You like that clip? Well, my State of the Union podcast drops twice a week right here on my very own YouTube page. The only way to stay up to date is to hit that subscribe button down below. Size the day, and see you soon.